Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our third session of the Technology Talk Mentor Series. So tonight, Lee Cisneros and Mrs. Jenna Versh are going to be talking about RVA Online, also known as Buzz. So I'm excited about this because there are applications that are going to be very relevant to you.
Hi, everyone. I am Mrs. Versh. Nice to meet you all. Thanks for joining us today. And Lee Cisneros is also with us, where we will tag team this topic. It is one of the ones that is very exciting for the middle level students as well as the high school. Again, if they're not in RVA Online yet, they definitely can join that once they reach middle school or high school. Excellent. Yes, the middle school and high school level is fantastic. And then if they're elementary grades, this is kind of something to look forward to as we expand our course offerings too into the online curriculum as well. Okay. So we're going to start off today just at the pre-K through 8th grade classroom access page. If you have high school students, the high school classroom access page will look very similar to this one. Basically, everything that you need for RVA Online classes is located on this page. Okay, so the first part is when you hear people use the term live classes, that would mean all of these different Blackboard rooms. So for example, if you're taking 6th grade language arts, you might have a live class with Mrs. Miller at 8:45. If you're taking 7th grade social studies, you might have a class with Mrs. Schmall at 8 o'clock. So if you take live classes, you would basically click in that Blackboard room. You would attend that live class with a teacher, and they would talk you through the different lessons and instruction pieces relating to your RVA Online curriculum. Okay. The other way you can take RVA Online is independently, and basically that means that you would just work through the content kind of at your own pace with some teacher support, but you wouldn't necessarily have that daily live teaching piece. So a lot of our middle school and high school students really take that content, the RVA Online content, with the live class format. So the live classes is the first part of it. The second part we're going to spend most of our time in today is the actual Buzz platform, where you find all of the curriculum and pieces that you can kind of assist your child with at home. So RVA Online Classes is what you will click to actually log into your account. As you will notice, this is another page that you should probably bookmark. This is the basic login page where students would type their username and password. Okay. And students' username is usually their first name, dot their last name, and then the first time they log in, their password is usually RVA123. Okay. One of the common questions we do receive is there a separate parent login? There is actually not a separate parent login. Basically, you should just use your child's login with their username and password. Okay, so I will go ahead and log in with my student account here and kind of show you around. All right. So here is the first step to the login. And you'll notice on the very top within the web address, it says something called Genius. Genius. So if you ever hear people say, hey, log into Genius, that's kind of the first step of your login. Okay, there's not a whole lot on this login page. It will kind of give you some course information, a little bit of an academic snapshot if you want a quick glance at your child's grades and pacing. There is a gradebook feature on here. But the one that's actually better is the one that we'll get into in a moment. So a lot of people don't really use this page a whole lot. But basically what they do is they'll click on any of these course links right here. So I'm going to go ahead and you can see all my courses listed. So I'm going to click in my math course. As soon as you click one of those course links, it's going to actually open up your whole platform, And this is what we call the Buzz platform, Buzz. Okay. So again, first you go into RVA Online and kind of type your login information, and then you go into Genius, and then finally you arrive into Buzz. Okay, so this is where we're going to spend most of our time tonight. Buzz is basically kind of the student platform where we have all of our curriculum, where they have all of their assignments, where they have all of their grades. Everything you need for RVA Online is housed within Buzz. Okay, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of preview this page. So the first thing that you see on this page are what we call the different course tiles, So you can see I have all different leveled courses in my account, but depending on how many RVA Online courses your child is taking depends on kind of how many course tiles there are, okay? Other things to look at on this first home page are up here in the right-hand corner is kind of like your profile button. So your profile button, you can kind of adjust some of your settings. You can actually set your profile picture, which is pretty fun to do. You can also set notifications and different notifications for scores and feedback. Okay, so for example, if I want to be emailed to my email account every time I submit an activity, you can go ahead and select when you want those emails and how you want to be notified. So again, that's within the settings tab within that upper right hand corner. So that one's a good one to always adjust. Okay.
Jenna, you might want to point out that they can also get notifications sent to their phone. They're not nearly as handy as, they're not as complete as if they were coming through your email, but you can do that if you'd like, and it'll pop up as a little message.
Great point. Thanks, Lee. Yes.
Yep.
So again, if you want notification by your mobile phone number, you can go ahead and enter that there, and then as well as your mobile phone carrier. And yes, definitely a nice feature for sure. So again, the notifications is probably the biggest thing in here, and a lot of our students do adjust their profile picture, which is nice as well. Staying up in that right-hand corner, the other adjustment that a lot of people do is they choose their theme. So right now you can see I kind of have this bluish, greenish theme color. There it is. If you want to decide to change it to a different color, you can go ahead and select a different theme color, and then basically it will change that little ribbon across the top for you to a different color. Okay, so again, settings and theme are the main things to look at in that menu up at the right-hand corner. Okay, again, if we just do a look around on this page, you can see my courses are listed on that course homepage. This second tab is probably one of the top, what would you call it, Lee? Top destinations of everyone's account. The lovely to-do list. A lot of students love their to-do list because this is kind of like their online checklist. And I know this is a top spot as well for parents to come and kind of do a quick check-in of what's due each day, or if they have anything that's past due as well. Okay, so on my to-do list, This is auto-populated based on the teachers and what they set for the assignment due dates. Okay, so for example, I can see that in 8th grade language arts, I have a past due assignment. As I scroll through here, since I have lots of classes, I have lots of things due. But again, this to-do list tab is kind of like your online checklist. So I can see, ooh, I have something past due in Mrs. Versh's language arts class. It was due last Monday. I need to go into that and hopefully finish. And again, what's really nice about this to-do list is as soon as you click on it, it will go ahead and take you to that specific assignment. Okay. And again, just to get back to the to-do list, I would just click that home button. And yes, it automatically updates. So again, the to-do list is an excellent strategy and an excellent tool for students to kind of practice using, especially for that organization piece. Any other comments with the to-do list or questions? I know that's a big feature.
One thing I just wanted to point out with the to-do list is sometimes it's overwhelming, and don't worry about that because I'm sure Ms. Versh is going to show you in a little bit how you can go into each individual course and it condenses it down to just the assignments for each particular course. So keep in mind that from the dashboard here, this is the to-do list for every course you have.
Great point. And what's interesting too about the to-do list is it does kind of auto-populate to about a week out. So you can see I have quite a few things on my to-do list, but really, you know, I might only have a few things that are due today. And then I can look forward to what's due tomorrow, the next day, that sort of thing. And a lot of people also transfer these items to sometimes their paper and pencil planner or a paper and pencil to-do list. But this is kind of their first stop to be like, okay, I'm all caught up. These are things that I have due this week. But yes, it's a great feature. Yes. The other tab that's in here is what's called your activity stream. And basically the activity stream shows what you have been doing within your account every time that you log in. So again, sometimes parents will use that activity stream just to kind of check up on their student and see what they're doing actually when they're in their account. It's nice that you can see how much time they're spending on their different assignments and just, you know, what they're working on. So this activity stream is a good spot to check kind of that daily activity as well. All right. Any questions about those items? The other thing that you'll see right away on your course home screen is the announcements. So sometimes teachers will have to cancel class and they will post that announcement right within Buzz. So that announcement kind of populates daily if there is an announcement, and that's located right here as well. Great question, Tracy. So she's asking how much time a student should spend on each class outside of the class. So the recommendation that we usually give is if students are in a live class, they usually spend a half hour each day in that live class. And then we recommend that they spend about a half hour outside of that class, kind of completing the various activities. Now, that might not mean that they need that half hour every day, but if they have it scheduled in from the beginning of the year, it kind of sets them up for a more successful year when they just have that time already scheduled out within their day. Yes, definitely. So that sometimes that activity stream will give you a clue if they're spending that 30 minutes. Again, every student is different. You know, some students might be able to complete an assignment, you know, while they're doing it in class. Some students may need to take extra time on a math assignment versus a science assignment. So it really depends on your child. But that's kind of a good rule of thumb is that 30 minutes in class and 30 minutes out of class. Great question. All right. The other biggest buttons that you'll see is under each course tile, there is a little play button that says activities, and then there is a little button that says grades. Okay, so those are the two main buttons that are for every course. You can also navigate things within these three lines up in the left-hand corner. One thing with Buzz is there's a lot of ways to click in order to get to the same place. So it really depends on your preference. So some people like to go into their activities or their gradebook view just by clicking these little icons, and some people like to click the three little lines and navigate this way. Okay. Two things that I'll show you within here before we get into these other views are up here. There is this communication tab. That's usually where all those announcements are housed, as well as sometimes teachers will send various messages through Buzz. So that's kept tracked in the communication. The other helpful tool within this menu is what we call the calendar. And your child's calendar should not look as crazy as this. But the calendar really lays out a visual view of what is due for a whole month at a time. So again, you can kind of see for each of my courses that are color coded, I can see what is due when. Okay, and right now I have all of my courses checked. If I uncheck some of them, they'll take them off my calendar. So if you only want to see your language arts assignments that are due for the month, you can kind of uncheck the rest of the courses. Or if you want to see everything that's due for the whole month, you can definitely do that. But that calendar tool is, again, another kind of visual organizational tool that students can use to kind of see when the due dates are set and what they can kind of plan on for upcoming assignments. Okay. Lee, any other comments about communication calendar before we
Yeah,
can?
it's kind of a higher level thing, but if you go into the upper right where you see those two arrows pointing around each other, it's the sync button. So go to the right a little bit more past calendar. That button right there, when we were talking about using the Google Calendar in our last mentor series, you can embed your Buzz calendar into a Google Calendar using this link right here. And it's really nice, except for the fact that it's not going to take you directly to a lesson like it does. Like here in Buzz, if you click on anything on the calendar, it takes you to that lesson in the course. When you go through a Google Calendar, you can still click on it, but then it's going to make you log into Genius and then log into Buzz, and then so it's a little bit clunkier, but it will at least populate what is due for every day on your Google Calendar if you use a Google Calendar every day. Just one more way to see what your kids are doing every day. So.
Excellent. So again, to find that, if you click on calendar, and then it's these two little arrows that say sync. And then Lee, are they able to set up like calendar reminders? Like would it remind them of these various assignments too if they have that set up?
You would have to go in and change your settings in your Google Calendar from what I know, but at least then it would be on your calendar. For sure it'll populate it onto your calendar, but if you go in and set up the reminders, you could, but again, it'd be something you'd have to do manually at this point.
Excellent. Great feature. Any other questions about calendar communication?
Find out that if they wanted to, they could click on the left-hand side and make it so that only one course was lit up at a time, or is that something you're going to mention once you get into the actual course?
Yep, I think we'll go into that now. So,
okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, usually the first step that a lot of students will do is obviously just go into their homepage, and then they'll go ahead and choose the course tile that they want to work in. So we'll go ahead and focus on 7th grade language arts. So you'll see as soon as I click the course tile, down the left-hand side there, there's the different folders that are contained within this course. Again, if I wanted to, I could get to the same course by going down this side view, the left-hand side view, and clicking on that course and then clicking on activities. So kind of two ways to get into your courses, but a lot of times people just click the course card and go right into it. So again, you can see down the side, a lot of teachers set up what we consider a welcome folder. The welcome folder usually contains like the course information, the syllabus, contact information. Then there's usually a folder with the class recordings. This is definitely an important one to feature. Class recordings is a common way that students, if they miss class on that day, they can go ahead and click on the Blackboard link that's posted by that teacher, and they can rewatch the lesson that they potentially missed. Also, maybe students are in class that day and they want to rewatch something that was covered that maybe they want to rewind or fast forward. So all of those class recordings are usually housed within that class recordings folder. Okay. Then teachers have the capability to kind of customize the rest of their class. So you can see I have a folder with lesson plans. We're doing a little bit with student badges and class blogging. I also had a getting started folder with various activities in. And then you can see our very first module, which is considered like a unit, is what I'm going to click in now. So again, every module has a set number of different lessons. So you can see this module starts out with a pretest and a checklist. So all I have to do to get to that lesson is basically just click on it, and it is going to load what we consider to be the lesson. So this is kind of the lesson view. You can see on the top here, there is a notes feature that opens in a new window if you'd like to use that feature. A glossary that kind of gives you a course glossary of common terms, as well as the option to print. A lot of times we don't recommend printing because it will only print one page at a time. But I do have students that do like to print this first checklist just because it lays out how many lessons and kind of what will be expected of them during that first module. Yes. As far as navigation goes, it lists the page numbers up here on the top, so I can jump all the way to page 3 if I want. I can also use the arrows to navigate, as well as this home button. So again, quite a few options to kind of navigate through the course. It's pretty easy again to kind of click around and see where you want to be within the course. So here's an example of a sample lesson. This is the very first page. Some subjects will kind of give you the directions, and the assignment is usually located at the very end of the lesson, but some of them give you kind of like a sneak preview of what to expect. The second page of a lesson is usually kind of like the objectives that you're expected to learn throughout that lesson. And then there's various, interactive features throughout the lesson. So there's some visuals to kind of introduce those concepts. And then just like a little storybook that we're going to read. So you can see it's kind of like a flip book right within the course. And then it's going to ask me, to answer these questions. And then it's going to give me that feedback right away. So those are kind of those interactive features within the lesson. And then finally, on the last page of the lesson is usually what's listed as your assignment. So it says I need to go to 1.01 and complete the quiz. So that is what I would need to do for this lesson. Okay. Lee, anything else to highlight with lessons and how they're set up?
No, I just wanted to reiterate that when it says page 7 of 7, that there's a lot more clicking. I know people that tend to start the RVA don't notice the page number at the top. And so they read the first page and then they go to the assignment and yeah, they kind of lose it. The other thing, they kind of lose their place in the course, which is easy to do. The other thing I wanted to point out is when you click the home button, see how those two arrows on, when you click to the right, even though you're on pages 7 of 7, when you click that one right there, it takes you down to the next assignment or it takes you back to the beginning. It's going to depend on the course. If you ever get lost, just go back to the activities bar on the left and kind of start over, because sometimes we start clicking looking for something and we get into the wrong lesson on accident. So just like Jenna was saying earlier, where there's a whole bunch of different ways to get to the exact same spot in Buzz, if you ever get lost, just click back to where you know you wanted to be and start over. I know when I started, I was doing that all the time. So no worries, you can't break it. Just get back to where you know you need to go and start from there.
Awesome. And as I was saying before, each course is a little bit different too. Lee mentioned too, you know, the setup is pretty similar, but for example, like this one gives you like a little sneak preview of an assignment with an actual pop-up. Not all courses do that. Sometimes, you know, you have to go all the way to the end to find the assignment directions, and then the assignment is usually somewhere below it. Okay. So again, you know, we can act like we just completed that 1.01 lesson. Now I know that my activity that I need to complete is the 1.01 quiz. Okay, so usually for quizzes, it's going to say like a little start button. You'll see that I actually already tried this quiz, and you can see I earned a 40%. Woo boy. So you can see I do have what's called a retry arrow where I can try this quiz again. So that is why it says the continue button, or sometimes it also says retry as well. Okay, so when I click that button, it's going to load the quiz. Some quizzes are multiple choice. Some quizzes have short answer questions. It just kind of, again, depends on the content and how it's set up. But here to submit a quiz, all you have to do is click the submit button. It says, oh no, I've not answered questions 1 through 5. Do you want to submit now? I would click no. Some courses also offer you to save and exit your progress. So you just have to kind of pay attention to if your course or your quiz offers that or not. Yep, so again, it kind of depends on, you know, if that save and exit is offered to you or not.
In the chat bar, someone was asking if you could save your answers on a quiz before you do a retake. Meaning if you look at your quiz and review your stuff to see if the answers were correct and then memorize those, that's one way to study. The problem with that, though, is that a lot of the quizzes come with pooling. So they might have 10 different questions about one topic, and all the different students get different quizzes. So quite often when you retake a quiz, you're going to get a whole different set of questions, all aiming for the same skill set, but there'll be a different variation of that same question. So it's one of the pros to having such a large database of questions. So it doesn't always work that way. It's better to go to your teachers and ask about those questions rather than just try and save the old questions. Yep, good question though, because I know a lot of students think that way when they submit a quiz. They want to submit it, get the right answers, and then come back and redo it for a better score. It just doesn't always work that way.
Yes, sometimes the question order is switched. Sometimes, again, questions are similar but not exactly the same for another retry. Good point. So again, a quiz is one example of a type of assessment that might be within the course. The second kind of assessment is usually some sort of assessment that has to do with what we call the drop box. Anytime that you see a drop box, that usually means that you have to create something basically outside of the course and kind of attach some sort of file. So you will see for this one, there is actually a template provided. And when I click on the template, it's going to take me into a Google Doc template. And I'm going to make my own copy as a student. And basically this would be my assignment that I need to complete and then attach within my course. Okay. So again, anytime there's a Dropbox, that means usually that you have to do some sort of outside creation and attach your file. Okay. You will see once I click the Show Dropbox button, I do get the option to add an attachment. A lot of the attachments that we add are Google Documents. So once I click on that, it will give me access to basically everything on my Google Drive that I can attach and send to my teacher. You can also attach, different comments. You can attach different links. You can attach images, video, as well as voice features as well. So basically this Dropbox is kind of your one-stop shop for submitting your assignment for different lessons. Any other comments, Lee, about the Dropbox that you can think of?
The thing I would say is that if you get to the Dropbox and for some reason you can't load your document or you can't, like the file's not there, something's gone, what I would suggest is at that point, email your teacher right away, because no matter how often we can do these mentor series or we can give you tips on technology, we need to always remember that you're always welcome to fall back on the teachers, especially as you're learning the system. So if you pull something up and it doesn't look like this, there's no shame and there's true encouragement in reach out to your teacher, send them the document this time, and we'll walk it through you for the second time. But it's better to reach out right away than to get frustrated and then log off for the night and try again tomorrow and get frustrated again. So just always remember that we do not mind getting questions about it, especially Dropboxes and things that are kind of time sensitive. So just make sure you're reaching out whenever you can. That's my
Tracy, that's totally happened to me too, where I've set up an assignment and I'm like, oh, I have a Dropbox for students to hand things in. And then I find out, like you said, it isn't working for anybody. So then, you realize that, it's not set up correctly or you have to retry something. So it's always good to kind of keep in touch with your teacher if you're having issues or, just not able to hand in an assignment. Excellent. So those are kind of the basic things that are set up within each course, within each lesson. As far as looking at the actual course, a couple other buttons within this area is right here, this check mark. It will actually give you a to-do list just for the course that you're logged into. So again, we had that to-do list on the main page, which showed you all of your due dates for all of your courses. If you're logged into your specific course and you click on that check mark, that will only load the assignments that are due for that specific course, which again is a nice tool to kind of narrow your assignments down and not to be overwhelmed by all your due dates at one point. Okay. The exclamation point would be announcements just for that class. And then again, if you need to make a note to yourself for a specific class, you can add a note in that feature here. Any other questions before I take you into the Gradebook View?
I don't have any other questions, but if the to-do list was the #1 visited spot, the gradebook is probably a close second.
I agree. Tracy, this notes I would think is kind of like the notes feature, like a little like sticky note type thing. So I might just say, remember Mrs. Versh said to look over, slide 6 or something like that. So you can kind of save those little notes to yourself. I would say for longer note taking, that would be where students either open that Cornell note-taking file. Otherwise, some others will use like a note-taking template that's provided actually within the course. So it just kind of depends for which course you're thinking about. Some teachers will also provide like note-taking templates that will kind of lend themselves better to that specific content. So I would ask, each specific teacher, like, first of all, do you recommend taking notes for your class? And if you do, like, what format would you kind of use? And again, every student's different too, so you kind of have to figure out, what note-taking system works well for your child too. Whether it's go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jenna, but as a high school teacher, I know a lot of the high school teachers ask you to keep notes in a notebook or in a Google document or somewhere else because it's hard to pull things out of that little note tab. The one thing I have seen that students came up with to do with that note section is they keep a link to their Google Drive folder that houses all of their work for that particular class in that note section. So when they're working in that class and they just need to quick get into their Google Drive folder for that class, they have that link right there and they don't have to go looking for it. Which I thought was a really clever idea that some students showed me that they did, and I never would have thought of it. So I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great tip. And we're learning new things all the time. All right, so the next favorite spot to go to is the Gradebook View. Again, there are multiple ways to get to the same spot. So the two ways to get there are to either click that graph button that is under the course tile. Otherwise, from the left-hand side, you can also find the course and then click on where it says grades. And here is the Gradebook View. So again, if we look at the top, it gives you your overall score. And it also talks about gradable activities versus all activities that are completed. So it kind of gives you the overall percentage of completion there. As you scroll down, you can see a listing of various assignments. So for example, if I see that Module 1 folder, I can see that 1.1 quiz that I had the 40% in. I can see when I submitted it, and then to the right is when it's due. Okay, so submitted date versus due date. Okay, and then you can see it lists the various scores for various assignments. Okay, the other icons to mention are the retry arrow. So that means that I would be allowed a retry for that quiz. And to do that, all I have to do is click on my score, and I will then click on the title of the quiz. Before I do that, though, I want to review which questions I had incorrect. So there's a details tab that shows me my overall completion, but if I click on the questions tab, it will actually load each of the questions I had with the correct answer and the incorrect answer. So again, a great strategy to encourage students to do is before they take a retry, really review those incorrect answers and questions. Even though the questions may not be the same on their retry, this should help them kind of learn from their incorrect answers on that first try. because a lot of times those questions on the retry will be similar to those on the first try. So again, that questions tab is very useful to help. Okay. Third, it will just give you kind of a synopsis of your submission history so you can see when I submitted it the first time, and then the various objectives that are related to that quiz. Again, to get to that screen, all I did was click on the score, and then it loads that screen, questions, submission history, and objectives. To get back to the actual quiz, I'm going to click on the blue title, and then it will load the quiz screen that I can actually retry. Okay, so again, lots of clicking, but you get back to the same place. And the more you click, the more it clicks by kind of navigating buzz. The other thing I want to talk about is checking feedback for assignments. So right here, there's that little chat box type icon. That means I have some sort of feedback relating to this assignment. So if I look in the details tab, I can see that there's actually a rubric attached to this scoring of this assignment. And you can see there's various feedback included based on this rubric. And then on the bottom, there is overall feedback from the teacher. So again, this might be where the teacher would attach, comments. Some teachers provide video feedback or voice feedback. Some provide a scoring rubric. But again, anytime there's that little comment box, that usually gives you a more of an idea of what's going on with your score and how, again, you can retry it and make it better. So look at this. If I go back and I include the title and the author or add in this information, I could get a better score on my assignment. Go ahead, Lee.
Well, and from the high school perspective, correct me if it's wrong in the middle school, but the #1 comment that teachers in the high school use is that the Google Doc that was submitted is not shared. And the procedure in the high school is we give the student a 0 on the assignment if it's a written work and the Google document isn't shared with us. And then we leave a comment that says, please share this with us. And then just like you have right there, that reset button or that redo button, the little circle with the arrow. So anytime you log in and you're like, oh my gosh, they said they submitted it and why are they getting zeros? It's really important to go see that comment box, because if it's something as simple as they forgot one click on a Google Doc and didn't share it, it's an instant fix and you can get right back in the game. So this is one of the more important areas when it comes to troubleshooting what's going on with student grades. So that's what I needed to add there.
Yes, great point. And same at the middle school level. Anytime you have a see a 0 and that right arrow, that's usually just meaning that they forgot to attach some sort of file. Great point. Again, submission history, you can see how many times they've handed in that assignment as well. And yes, Tracy, do some students struggle with all of these features? It is definitely just like anything else in life. It does take a while to learn how to navigate things and how to use all the different features. Again, when they're using it daily, it definitely, comes faster and practicing it every day. And the teachers always try to use the same vocabulary and try to show them how to, continue to check their grades and their feedback. So I feel like even now in October, compared to back in September, students are really catching on to the different aspects of Buzz. Even after just a month of learning. So I can only imagine in another month, they're going to be definitely getting used to it. But we always tell students it does take a while to learn it. So we are here to help you along the way and support you in any way we can. And yeah, right, Lee, they start teaching us all the extra features. So again, this is the main page of the Gradebook View. And those are kind of the main features. One nice feature of this view is you can actually print it and have kind of a listing of all of the assignments and when they're due. So some families, will print this page and kind of use it as a paper pencil checkoff. Sometimes they can get a little lengthy, but again, it kind of is that paper pencil checkoff list too. Excellent. A couple of other features within this screen, if you click on Dashboard, that just gives you a brief overview of your overall grade. The For Me kind of gives you a synopsis of what you've been working on. The What If tab is a fun one to kind of play around with. So for example, if a student's like, what if I get a 0 on this, how will it affect my overall grade? Again, it will recalculate it depending on what scores you put in on the right-hand side. So that's always a fun one to kind of play around with, especially when you get towards the end of the semester. Like, hey, what if I only do this part of this assignment? Or, what if I really want to get that A? What do I have to do to improve my scores? I know. It's kind of one of those things, the projection. Here is another way to check the various activity. So in that activity stream, you kind of have the overall activity. You can break down the activity based on each course as well. So for example, you can see that 1.01 quiz today, I was in for 9 seconds. So sometimes we'll have parents checking this view and they'll say, hey, you only spent 2 minutes on that language arts quiz. That's not near enough time. And then sometimes that's why we see the score that we see. So again, that activity tab is kind of good to check through and use as a learning tool as well. Objective mastery will show their overall mastery for the objectives within that course. And then some courses are also using what we call badges. They're like little online stickers that some courses have been using as well. So those are kind of the tabs across the top of the Gradebook View. Any other comments with that, Lee, that you can think of?
The only thing I wanted to point out is right here on this screen, there's 2 percentages. There's the 55%, that's the grade of gradable activities completed. So that's based on just like, it's kind of like their point in time right now. Those are the assignments that have been assigned and they've received a score. The score right below that, the 23%, that's of all activities. So that's as if they start off with a 0 for every assignment in the entire semester. That's where their score is for that. So there's 2 different numbers. If you're looking for the score that you should most frequently refer to, it's that top one. In this case, it would be the 55%, because those are the ones, that's the percentage of the assignments they've turned in. So it's a little like when you see 3 different scores, and yeah, that very top score at the very top, that's the one that's most important. Those 2 down at the bottom, those are how much of the class they've completed, but that top score is the big one. So I know sometimes parents log in and they see 3 different percentages, and then they might look at Genius and see another percentage, but that one right there that she has highlighted, that's the score we need to be focusing on. Is it right, Jenna, in the middle school as well?
Correct, yep. And this is a little bit off too, just because I only have the first module open. So I think even this percentage will be different once I open up the second module. So yes, that top score is the percentage that you want to focus on the most. One other point to mention too is this Buzz gradebook is the most up-to-date score. So that first screen where we first logged in, which we called Genius, if you use the gradebook in Genius, it is only updated every 24 hours. So sometimes if you see a score discrepancy where one score is in this gradebook and one score is in the Buzz gradebook, always go to Buzz for the most up-to-date scores.
is where I would also add, I've had a couple questions from parents and students where they log into Skyward to check their scores. Kind of just scratch that off your list completely until the end of the semester. We really only use Skyward for enrolling students, and then the end of semester scores that would go on the transcript. So that's another thing where it might be confusing, but just cross Skyward off your list and only check that at the end of the semester, whereas Buzz is definitely the #1 place we would always recommend for checking scores. And right now, when you're on the student app, Jenna, if you can do the buttons on the top left, lines on the top left, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's another grade book right there, and that's where you can see a snapshot of all the grades for all the kids, all the classes that your students are enrolled in. That would be the one place you can see all the scores at once, but it's definitely better to go into each individual score as well. So yeah, that's all I had to add. Like we said earlier, though, there's 5 different ways to get to every destination, so just keep clicking.
Yes, yes. And again, every course is set up a little bit differently. We try to follow a similar format for our course setup, but you can see, when I click on someone else's course, math courses might be set up a little bit different than language arts course. Science courses, I know, have those interactive labs within their courses. So depending on the course content, you might notice a couple differences, but we try to keep it pretty similar as far as, having a welcome folder, having the Blackboard recordings, and then having those first modules with the various lessons and activity complete pretty clearly labeled. Okay. Excellent. And I was just going to share the link one more time to our Technology Time playlist. Again, this kind of gives you an overview of everything that we've covered through this 3-part mentor series. As we concentrated on navigating RVA Online and Buzz today, you can kind of see there's a bunch of different videos for going back and kind of reviewing these concepts that we went through. We also talk about, setting yourself up for success. So I know Tracy asked a question about time expectations. We have a little video about that, as well as our academic honesty policy, and just kind of organizing your school space along with your RVA Online content. Saving passwords is a huge part of, having all these different online logins, as well as creating that master schedule that works for you. There are a couple other useful tools that we kind of go through in our live classes as well. So those videos are included in here too. So again, use this playlist, and thanks again for coming tonight. We've enjoyed our time with you, and let us know if you have any other questions. We would be happy to answer any questions by email or set up a meeting with you as well.
Yes, and I want to thank the 2 of you for this 3-part series. This has been so helpful to me as a parent, and also we have had excellent feedback from other parents. So I just want to again thank you and look forward to seeing all the videos together in our mentor series library. So thanks again.